Welcome to the weekly weird werewolf soap opera that is Werewolf the Podcast. My name is Will, and I'm a werewolf. We are on episode 117, and in the middle of all sorts of things happening. Please go back and listen to the other episodes, at least in this series, because then this one will make sense. This series starts at episode 112. Your sharing of the podcast, your reviews and downloads are important to this show because it helps spread the word. I never would have thought that there would be so many of you that get it. But now I realise that there are a lot who think like us. Because they tell me. And because this podcast is growing significantly. There are a lot of us like-minded folk in the world. Wow. So let's get back to the story. Ben, Sula, from her desk across the way, seemed a little bit puzzled. I was doing something really important. It required all my concentration. I mean, if you don't focus on these fucking fail videos, you miss the best bits, don't you? Honestly, I was inwardly pissing myself watching cats slap people and slap other pets. Honestly, cats can be up a... Ben, come here, please, was repeated. I pressed pause and brought up the other open tab of the document that I was, supposed to be working on. With a sigh, I got up from the desk and wandered across the office floor to what amazing thing Sula had found. Sula is me boss. She is pretty and fabulous. I had a crush when I first met her, and getting to know her, I realised that she would be hard work. I would have to pretend I was civilised and that I enjoyed so-called culture. My culture was club nights and football. The twain would, I don't think it'd ever cross. I believe, she was still in my dreams frequently, and I think without description you can tell what kind of dreams they were. I wandered over in the coolest manner and with a swagger that I could. I always believed that you should never give up on those dreams, as sick as some of them were. Sula was one of those types of people who had flowers and fruit on her desk. I helped myself to an apple, polishing it on my shirt before crunching down on it while I watched Sula's face. She had a look of disbelief as she stared at a fountain. I don't think you are going to believe what has just come up on my phone. Her eyes met mine. Oh, and if you pass one joke or one quip about what you will see, I will sack you. It was a warning not worth really ignoring. She slowly turned her phone so that I could see the screen. She was on Hinge. Oh God, I almost spat my mouth full of apple mash across the room. I met her eyes and they told me, no, if you don't know what Hinge is, it's a dating site. How on earth was I supposed to not pass comment on that? Focus on the picture, please, Ben, she said. I looked and chewed and swallowed down a mouthful. I mean, he's obviously good looking. What do you want me to say? You asking me for advice? I asked her. She put her hand on her forehead and she shook it. No. Look at the picture, Ben. Who is that? She asked. I looked again, trying to get past the fact that Detective Abby was on Hinge. It then sank in. James, in the picture, was not fucking James. It was the fucking werewolf.
Sally. I was driving. There was no to anywhere, but just a from somewhere. I was focused on other places mentally than the road. We'd driven off and left Will and Finn just sitting there aside after rescuing my fangs. He just reached into his breast pocket and given them to me. I mean, just like that. I'd announced the pregnancy and it had not hit well like I hoped it would. I mean, it was his kids, pups, who the fuck knew what was going on inside that uterus of mine. I have no idea what the hell happens when werewolves get jiggy. Can more posits be made? I mean, I've got no idea. I've got no idea what to expect. I've no fucking clue. Stuff was happening way too quick for the pregnancy to be normal. That was as far as I was aware. I mean, it hadn't been 9 months, let alone, really any time at all, 4 weeks, and everything I read online said at 4 weeks I shouldn't know, but it was really bloody obvious. He had just sat there and nodded at the sharing of information. I'd expected something more than a shrug. I was pregnant, and it was undoubtedly his fucking doing. He just fucking shrugged. I'd been so angry with him, and I just burst on him like a claymore in a sewage silo. Just imagine that. I'd been really shitty and given him a lot to digest. I'd expected anger, arguments, threats, or maybe I'd expected him to show regret or reproach or some kind of fucking emotion. He might have even been happy and, well... but just fucking shrugging and saying nothing, fucking nothing. I raged. I called him everything that I could think of. I tried to hurt the fucker as much as I could. Verbally, anyway. I would have physically torn him a new one if Azza had allowed me to transform, but she would not. And to be honest, I was actually kind of grateful for that. I mean, the loss of my leather jacket would have been hurtful enough as I wolfed out. But the damage I would have done to the boss, actually, yeah, that would have been the icing that I had not needed on this shit cake. I would have also regretted it afterwards, for sure. Eventually, I was just emotionally exhausted. He'd not bit back verbally or physically, not once. He just sat there and took it. I had no more and just stared at him while my mind came back together and realised that the 5 minutes of rage had been wasted on what is truly a monster of a man. He is sick and he is broken, not by being a werewolf, but by being just the man that he is. But God, it turns out I love him. I love that stupid fucker. He'd been surprisingly accepting of the situation and smiled and nodded as I vented bile at him. Him and Fen just rode out the storm of vitriol. After my tirade of abuse, he just gave me the name of his hotel and asked me if I could drop him off. He even said please. And I did. I fucking did. Can you believe that? I drove him back, the four of us just sitting in that really fucking awkward silence, looking out the windows, lost in our own completely unshared thoughts. Who the fuck are you beeping at, pal? I'll give you something to beep about, you arsehole! I pulled up, and he and Fen just jumped out and closed the door. I put the van in gear. I didn't look at him. He would just be standing on the roadside with his big dumb dog half. He'd be desperate to call me back. Maybe he would shout and chase after us. He might catch us. Initially, if he was willing to go whole hog. Whole hog? Whole hog. God, my mind is fucked. Well, actually, more whole wolf. He would have regretted everything that he had done and said and want to help and be part of, well, whatever the fuck this is. But no, fuck him. He had the opportunity to say something and do something a few moments ago. I think it's better like this. I'm a strong, independent woman. I need no one. I would just get on with it all on my own. Who the fuck do you think you are fooling? Said Azza. So I slowed and broke my own mental rule. And I glanced in the side mirror with just that little bit of hope. Maybe he would be coming after us. But no, he'd gone. He wasn't there. What a fucking bastard.
Ben. I sipped again at the hot tiny cap, checking around the other patrons as whether or not I should be doing something dainty with my pinky finger like they do in those period dramas where they drink tea. Apparently not. What I should be doing is shouting at someone else in Italian. That's how this place seemed to generate its energy. Well, its energy, its atmosphere and its aroma. Italian is a very physical language, so it was a weird mixture of verbiage and what looked like some kind of martial arts practice. I gave the tiny biscuit that came with the coffee a bit of a sniff and stuffed it in my mouth in a wanna, crunching the little thing. It was It was fucking marzipan. I was there for the guy. No, not like that. I was there to spot the werewolf. It was a lot easier than Where's Wally or Waldo or whatever my little cousin's into. Now, the werewolf was, well, he was obvious. He was different. I knew the smell, sight and other senses of the supernatural. That's really how I got the job. I see things that others don't. No, not dead things. Well, sometimes they're dead things, but apparently I am a thingy called a void. I can see through the bullshit that the supernatural entities do to disguise themselves and hide themselves from humans. The professor had told me how they came about, and I thought it would be interesting to know why I was so special. I would feel great having this incredible talent that I should be proud of. I mean, it's a profound gift, but the professor had ruined it for me.
Yes, it is a true talent, Ben. With your ADHD blessing you with the inability to focus and a complete lack of short-term memory and imagination, you just can't be befuddled because you do not have the creativity to construct the unreality they make you mentally construct.
Yeah, that's what he told me, as though it sounded like an amazing thing. Backhanded fucking compliment. Thanks, Simon. I was sat a few tables away from the target of the day. A couple of the others, as they call themselves, sat a little bit away from me. A couple of banshees that had been around this part of London for a century or more and had been running the local Irish bar pretty successfully for a long time. A very long time. I was mesmerised by the guy, werewolf guy at the table. Though he just looked so sharp and unreal without thinking of him as anything else. I knew he weren't using no kind of glamour on me because apparently I didn't have the fucking imagination that he would have needed to use a glamour on me. The fucker was good looking and confident. I mean, for fuck's sake, genetic lottery. He used confidence, not arrogance either. He looked like he had wandered off the front page of one of those positive affirmation bullshit fitness men's magazines you get. Inwardly, I should have fucking hated him if I know how he was treated by all them around him. They fell over themselves to get him whatever he wanted and they fucking fussed him. Good looking bastard. He actually looked like he should have been a partner with someone like Sula. God, I wanted to hate him. Oh, technically, that was allowed because he was a fucking bloodthirsty, murdering fucking monster. Yes, 1-0, pretty boy. Then the crackle of my earpiece and just one word. Here. I had to check myself from touching the earpiece so I did not give it away. The wolfman was scoping the room and checking out all the white things in the checkout. I could tell this guy knew his shit, as we say down here. He'd chosen a seat with his back next to the wall. It wasn't quite in the corner and was positioned almost equidistant between front and back doors. He could see the entire room and he was weighing up each individual as he looked at them. I like that he checked everyone, and somehow I missed direct eye-to-eye contact as his head passed mine. I had an extra concern for the wolf soul. As you know, because I am special, I normally can see the unseen, as it were, but there was no huge wolf soul as described by the werewolf here. The door opened and Sula walked in. We'd already planned the way we were organised in the room. There were 2 more detectives in the room to keep an eye on things, but they were not in the supernatural nonsense, if you know what I mean, so were given a very different briefing than mine. Sula took 2 strides into the room and drew much interest from the clientele. She's very striking. I thought, then, fuck. The biggest fucking dog walked in behind her. I think the surprise of it must have made me react somehow because it stopped and turned towards me, pausing for a moment. I was able to look away at my phone and in time and made a good ham-acting scene of being upset with something I saw on the screen. The senses of some of these fairy things are just incredible. It could obviously sense even the emotions that were being expressed. Shit. If that was the case, was Sula going to be okay? The wolf was... well, he was an incredible looking beast. His head was at least 6 feet from the ground, and when he lifted it fully, even more. At least, sorry, we should be using meters, shouldn't we? 1.8 meters? I don't know. And it was so long in the back. Probably a couple of meters at least. Those were just guesses, though. Its fur was so black. I'd never seen anything as black as that. It was not shiny black like that of a healthy Labrador. It was dull, more the dull matte, and made the wolf look like a walking shadow. It was a frightening black as it sucked the light into it. The wolf itself was far too large for the room, but it walked through things like peoples and tables and chairs without noticing them. Lastly, there was the eyes, the fucking eyes. I've seen some scary shit in my life, but this was proper scary shit because it had smouldering yellow flames in those sockets, those black pits. I never wax lyrical in describing things. It's been previously shown that I don't have an imagination, but the eyes were definite pits with burning flames inside them, the flames seeming to wander out of the sockets every now and again. I wanted to warn Sola, but we'd not figured out the wolf spirit being away from the man, so how long had the fucker been with her? We'd left the station together only an hour ago. This could be a trap. I wanted to warn her, but I was too afraid to mention anything to her in case I give myself away. She made out as to spot the man at the table. I'd already told her where he was a few minutes before she'd arrived. As she stood looking around the room, I filled her in about the posit. Sula, the fucking wolf souls followed you in. I wondered at first why I can't see him around here, but he's obviously with you. I thought I might, just not be able to see him, but it seems he's been following you. I don't know when he was following you from. You must realise the significance of that thought. Do you wish to abort the plan? Please abort, I told her over the minicom. It was so much easier for her with her hijab's idea piece. It's weird how you think of these things in the strangest of times. Isn't it strange? No, let's just see where this goes, she said. I love her confidence, but if she'd not been in charge at this point, I would have definitely pulled the operation. She wandered over to the man and he was sitting in his seat. I was at an angle where I could see them together. He was a little stunned for a moment at her. People think that Sula's pretty in pictures, but there's something more to her when she's physically present. I've gotten used to it over the years, but she has that social pop, that boom that few do. She took a seat and the man started the conversation. It was all very pleasant. The wolf souls lay down in the gap between the tables where the waiters wandered through him. He had his giant head on his giant paws, closing his eyes and chilling just like a resting dog, really. I could hear all that was going on. She was good at this stuff. It almost sounded like she was attracted to him, which she definitely wasn't. Was she? Fuck's sake. Did I really feel a moment of jealousy? They were flirty, and I sucked my teeth when James, whoever, talked his way out of being busted by saying he wanted to get her in bed. The wolf said, "Shut up," and looked directly at me at the sucking of my teeth. Those eyes bore into me and I felt the hairs rise on the back of my neck. The conversation on the table faltered momentarily and the man's eyes met mine in a clash of electricity. In that moment there were so many questions and his face changed from one of affability and courtesy to something bestial and furious for a millisecond. Will and Fen. We're being watched, Will. That man there sees me. He's listening to your conversation. I don't know how he's doing it, but he is. I smiled at Sula. I looked for the person that the wolf had mentioned to me. He was doing his best to hide himself away from my vision, but I met his eyes for a moment, which told me all. I'd got myself in a trap. Will had done the usual. Was Sula part of this trap? She was talking as I leaned across the table and looked into her eyes. She stopped talking and focused on me intently for a minute. I whispered to her, "Are you part of this?" I asked. Sula paused, just a little too long. Her eyes gave me the answer. That's a shame, I told her. That's a real shame. Now, I assume you know who I am, and maybe what I am. If so, you must know I am about to kick off big time. I am going to turn it into a fucking monster that you cannot stop, and I will tear everyone and everything apart in here. I will be able to judge your amount of knowledge about me by how you respond to the information that I've just given you. You should hopefully know that I am capable of what I said, and that, without a doubt, I can and will do it. Sula now, frozen, nodded. I imagine there are others in here listening as well as others on the outside, so listen carefully all. I'm going to pay for the coffee on the way out. I will leave a friend of mine here to watch. If I even think you are following me at any level, I will kill as many people as possible before you get to me, and it will be your fault. Does that sound like a reasonable thing to you to do? I mean, for me to leave and pay for my coffee? I asked her, generally. She nodded. Then message those that need messaging and let me go, Sula, please. They already know, she said. I rose from the table, leaving £20 on it. It was a nice meeting you, Sula. And then I winked as I offered my hand. She sat demurely now, all the confidence gone out of her. She did not take the hand I offered, and I laughed. I will see you again, I'm sure, I told her. I turned and left, leaving Fen to see what would happen. This was exciting shit. I nodded at the man as I passed. He had the decency at least to look away. Well, as usual, this had got interesting. I didn't realise or know what the fuck was going on now. End of the episode. Ooh, it's all building up. It's all getting exciting. Well, it is for me anyway. As usual at these times, I have to tell you the truth, and that is, of course, that I love you. Bye.